Good morning. I continue with these videos because some people have indicated that they've enjoyed them, despite the fact that a lot of you out there object to some of the things that I say. Some of the comments that I get are thoughtful and honest. Some of them are outrageous. We say the same thing over and over again, and we don't change each other's opinion very much. Sometimes I do. I have changed my opinion regarding certain things that some of you have mentioned and pointed out. And I grant you things that are well known and discovered to be true. For example, I was skeptical over what is called the God particle. And of course, the atom smasher at CERN in Switzerland and France has discovered supposedly the Higgs boson. And that doesn't really change anything, doesn't change ideology, just that I didn't believe that this was actually real, that it was just theoretical. But nonetheless, when you see things that are mentioned in print about science, some people go ahead and puff out their chest, and you see science knows better than anyone else. And on the contrary, science, in my experience, has verified a lot of the things that I thought existed within the Torah. Let me give you an example. We say that God is omniscient, that God knows everything. And then the question, of course, is that if God is omniscient and knows everything, then we have no choice. And so the answer that's given is a very difficult answer. But the answer that's given is that God knows what we have accepted or done later on in our existence. For God is not limited by time. God exists in time, in all times, and in all areas equally. So God exists in the past as in the future, and therefore sees what we have done. But that is very difficult for us to understand and comprehend, and so to make things easier, I came up with the following interpretation: that God knows all of the possibilities for all the choices that exist within the world simultaneously, and therefore anything that we do is just part of those choices, and God already has known them. The only difference is to ourselves, where we make the choice and follow a particular path. Taking that into account, you have to conclude that the result will always be the same. It's just that the pathway to get there is different depending upon our freedom of choices. If you commit suicide today, you're not going to change God's result in the world, but you will change your place in the universe and what your soul has to go through. For every action there's a consequence, and that's already been predetermined and accounted for. And so that's how I understood it, that there is this knowledge that is its own reality, that accepts and knows all the possibilities. I was looking, trying to find some article on relativity and quantum mechanics, when I came upon a particular article which indicated that the theory today is that there exist multiple universes of all the possibilities that existed and will exist simultaneously with ours, just that the observer will go in a particular route, and based upon that observer, the world that we're in will be reflective of that world. It's very, very much as I postulated with the idea of freedom of choice. I find that the advances in scientific thought actually reinforce certain ideas about God and about God's knowledge and about God's omniscience and omnipotence and so on, that that heretofore were not available to people. I just articulated this idea of multiple universes existing simultaneously with all the possibilities, and was met with incredulity by common people. But I've taken this as a matter of fact for many years, that God's ideas are real and they create. And so, what is the bottom line of all of this? The bottom line of all of this is that science does not negate God. Science opens up areas of discovery that were heretofore unknown to us. We thought the world was a solid world. That's not true. We thought that the world went by certain laws, and that these laws were immutable. We found out that they're not immutable. And a lot of things are based upon things that are not exact, which allows for a freedom of choice. If things were exact, there would be no freedom of choice. The fact that the observer or the will of the person can change things is indicative of a world where we've been given freedom of choice to choose the route of existence, and that all possibilities exist simultaneously. We've seen this with other factors such as light. Light travels. You choose where the light beam will be seen. You're not altering the light beam. The light beam was traveling in both directions or multiple directions at one time. You've chosen to take one of those paths and actualized it. And that's how I've understood it all this time, and that this was consistent with my beliefs of freedom of choice and God's knowledge.